Like even everybody was selling computers and printers and hardware products, but we didn't want to go to that. Three things we took as a resolution. One, no office, zero investment, zero employee. That was our principle.
Interesting.
Those who are able to adapt to the changing scenario are actually thriving much better than the other people.
If you have an idea which you strongly believe in and have the spirit of entrepreneurship thriving inside you, then trust me, this is the show totally for you. From the family of Reed Skyline, I welcome you to the 15th episode of The Business Boss. It is said that the effective people are those whose actions speak louder than their words. And I'm sure the guest of the day today perfectly fits the quote because he's truly a man of actions. On one hand, he's a passionate entrepreneur who does consulting for MSMEs, corporates, and even in the sports and the movie industry. And on the other hand, he is the author, orator, and the trainer of Heartfulness and also gives coaching for educational institutions. I know you're also wondering, like me, how he is handling all these things at just one shot, and that is why we are directly going to converse with him for all the answers. So, with no further delay, let us welcome the guest of the day today, Mr. M.K. Anand, the founder and the partner of Sea Change, co-founded Matic in the year 1998, and the chairman of MSME and ICT subcommittees in Andhra Chamber of Commerce, and is also a student of spirituality, meditation practitioner, and the certified heartfulness trainer. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for the long introduction,
Yes.
Mr. Lakshmi, and so nice of you.
Thank you, sir. Actually, it's very, very long, I should say. You're handling so many roles, and I am very, very happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
So we will directly go to the questions now. So before with all the conversations that I had with you, I understood that you are passionate about entrepreneurship. So how and when did you start your entrepreneurial journey back in 1998 itself, and how did you end up with Sea Change?
Okay. Thank you very much for asking this question. In this current scenario of pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, you are interviewing me, and I must share my deepest gratitude for taking time out to reach out to me. Your organization is a Reed Skyline, so
Yes,
I must appreciate the promoters' interest as well.
thank you, sir.
For the benefit of the entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, I would like to address this question what you asked me. In fact, my story not started in 1998 as an entrepreneur. It started in 1994, and I only knew that it was started in 1994. Me and a couple of my friends knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 22 back then. After my degree and little high studies on software engineering with NIT for about a year or so. That was the year 1994.
Okay.
Internet came to India in 1995. Just about 1 year before internet came to India, we started, using basic internet connection called shell account.
Okay.
The full-fledged internet service started in 1995. August 15th was the inception of BSNL. But
Okay.
Before that, prior to that, shell account means a dial-up account. It's a DOS account. It is not Windows operating system. It's DOS-based internet connection. It was quite popular back then. So we started, we in the sense, there are 4 friends of us. All of them were in 22, the age group. Just finished college and some software courses. We said, why not we start a small unit? So we bought a computer for 35,000 rupees each, putting 7, 8, 10,000 rupees individually.
Okay.
And then we bought a computer, and then we started, buying this. We procured this shell account, dial-up account, and we tell people in the neighborhood that if you have relatives and friends abroad, we will email on behalf of you, and you have to pay me 15 rupees for each email.
Okay.
For outgoing mail 15 rupees, incoming mail 10 rupees.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to do a rolling business of sending every day some 30-40 emails and receiving some 20-22 emails, and we take a printout of that mail. We also bought a printer and we go deliver that email to at the doorstep. It's like a courier service.
Wow.
The idea is, neighborhood people are extremely happy. The elderly people, old age people, they're extremely happy because they send a mail, they give some information, we go type it out, send, immediately it goes there, and instantly the reply comes, we take a printout, go and deliver. So within half an hour time, the communication happens just like that. So that is how we started. So we started a company called, very informal name, called Tetra Info Services.
Okay.
4 people know. And it ran for about 9-10 months or so because we were parallelly studying. So then we left it. That is how my actually entrepreneurial journey started. Why I'm saying this story is every entrepreneur has a story. It is not just a day came and they started. They would have started way back, maybe 5-10 years before. Maybe the idea would have come. They would have been nurturing within the mind. And then I moved on to a job. I started working for organizations, 2 organizations. Then in the year 1998, the burning desire inside of me that I have to do something on my own, which again popped up. Okay. So while I was casually having juice in a juice shop with a couple of my ex-colleagues, we were thinking that, okay, anyway, the internet has come in big scale. So I also knew internet because I was doing internet in 1994 itself. So why not we start some company? So that is how the whole thing started. It is not, those days, it is today you talk about startup, you talk about incubator, you talk about business advisors, you talk about funding. There are so many things which has come up in the ecosystem. Back then in 1998, we didn't have anything, So it is like, if at all you want to start something, you have to go to bank. So 3 of us, ex-colleagues of an organization, we started working like, why not we do something on internet? So then somebody asked me, so what can we do on internet? We said, okay, 3 of us said, I think we can start developing a product. We can start developing a solution. Everybody is selling. The moment when we say business those days, either you do manufacturing or you do what we call trading, retail and trading. So there were very limited people and limited scope to think on solution. Only solutions are being offered. I'm talking about IT solutions, internet solutions, being offered only by the large enterprises and large organizations. So we felt like there are small companies, hundreds and thousands of companies around this country. So why not we develop some solution for small companies? That is how MAP Technologies was born in the year 1998 by 3 of us. And then it became a private limited company in 2000, and then we went on with that model. Maybe we can discuss about it later. But in the year 2002, the clarion call which came to me for several years, because in 1996 I attended a leadership program with an organization called Alma Mater. The present infinitism, the infinite thoughts, infinitism, Mahatriya Ra, hope you know the movement. Back then, the Mahatriya Rao was called T.T. Rangarajan. He was running a company called Alma Mater. So I joined that course. It was sponsored by my employer where I was working. So 16 days I was attending leadership course between 16th December 1996 till 31st. And that has really created a lot of interest on consulting platform. So almost about 8 years later, I ventured into consulting business at mega scale. That was the birth of Sea Change Consulting.
Actually, from whatever you're saying, even the days that you could remember, all I would say is you're very, very passionate about what you are what you're doing, and about the Sea Change and all the ventures that you were into. So now talking about the Sea Change. Now this is an era of gig workers and the shared economy. But back in 2002, you had to trace the experts for every different project that you are taking up. So what are the difficulties that you had and how did you manage them, sir?
That's a very good question, Subbalakshmi.
Thank you,
in fact, I would like to go little backward to 1998.
Okay.
So when we started MAP Technologies and it became private limited company in 2000, I told you like we were ventured into solution selling model. Like when everybody was selling computers and printers and hardware products, but we didn't want to go to that route because we've been doing for a long time on the same model. We want to really disrupt ourselves.
Okay.
So we disrupted ourselves by getting into the solution model where we aligned with another techie organization, three brothers. Those days they are called PPP brothers. It was quite popular those days. Organization was quite popular, and we aligned with them, and they started developing a lot of products for SME market. Today what we call MSME. Those days was called SME, small medium enterprises. So we aligned with them and we started delivering a solution for small medium organization. Solution means, you know what, we develop website, we create a domain and we create a website. Once website is created, we provide email solution, then we provide antivirus solution, we provide firewall solution, then we provide the product called internet policing on internet. We provide for education institutions. So people can have access to internet, but they can have a controlled access. We can monitor the number of hours they use. So that was when the internet kiosk, the internet booth concept came first time in India. And I supplied several solutions to internet, booth, internet kiosk across Tamil Nadu. So that was about solution selling. Even to sell solutions, you need a lot of experts to support. So thanks to my leadership program, which I've undergone 16 days with P.T. Rangarajan sir during 1996, it has given me a lot of insights like a leader is the one who should be able to build more leaders.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Typically an entrepreneur must create more leaders, actually speaking.
True.
So we started recruiting freshers for my organization. A lot of people used to join as freshers immediately after their diploma courses or engineering. And we recruited them and we started grooming them. And they went and supplied solutions to various clients. That is how the business grew.
Okay.
The question what you asked me is about back then in 2002, how you were able to build expertise, the experts team in SeaChange.
Yes.
I'd like to share a very interesting story to you about SeaChange. Is it okay if I can share a few minutes on that?
Yes, sir. Totally.
Okay. See, when I was selling software solutions, IT software, internet solutions to market, I also parallelly developing resellers, whom we call the partners, marketing partners for our organization. So I used to hunt people who are one step above me in terms of their business growth, in terms of their reachability, in terms of the brand. So in fact, I used to meet a lot of people who are very senior to me in terms of age, in terms of business. And I go and tell them like, you are into IT business, but I am into internet business and something which is new to this world. So can you please take my product as a principal partnership, and we'll go sell each other to the common customers. That is how I started building the model. That's when I went to a company called Micronet Business Machines. There was a company in West Mambalam in T Nagar, near T Nagar. So I visited an organization. But before I visited, I made several calls to meet the managing director, but I didn't get an appointment. So almost I tried 8, 9 times, 10 times. I didn't get any opportunity to meet the director, the MD of the company. I could meet only the vice president of the company. So I went there and I met the vice president. I was explaining about the product. I was, in 2001, I was only about 29 years. So I was hot selling my solution to him. He was already a bigger organization than me. And he said, okay, you leave all your documents and you can email me. Let me talk to the managing director and get back to you. So he didn't fix up any appointment. The door was not actually open for me. But as a entrepreneur with a lot of spirit in it, so I don't want to leave that organization. Somehow I want to take that organization as my partner. So while I was visiting a social place one day, I'll come to that little later. What exactly the social place? Maybe during the conversation.
Okay.
So I saw this gentleman who is the managing director of that company, was working inside in that social space where I also go very often. And then I found out, okay, this person is also in the same fraternity of mine. So why not I go approach him? So I approached him. I said, I wanted to meet you for a long time, but I didn't get an appointment. About 8, 9 times, the door is not open. And I'd like to come and meet you. Because the social connect where we were, having some belongingness, he said, okay, why don't you come and meet me? So next day I went there. In the evening around 4:30 or so. He invited me inside. And I just went there to talk for 10-15 minutes time. That was appointment time. The meeting went for about 1.5 hours. And he offered me tea, coffee, he offered me all the verkadalai and all that. Those days was quite popular that particular place. So he said, I'm so happy about whatever you said, but I have some other opportunity to discuss with you. It was a different opportunity came to my lap. He said, I don't want to talk anything about it, but I'm just going to give you a audio booklet, a compendium of audio booklet. It has got 6 cassettes, which he authored. And he said, why don't you go and listen to this? The name of the compendium is called You Too Can Sell. So he's a hardcore sales trainer, hardcore sales mentor who authored a book called You Too Can Sell. It was released. Yeah, it was published also widely. Then I said, okay, I don't want to take it free. I want to buy. He said, okay, you can pay me 350 rupees. I paid 350 rupees and took it. And I went home. I listened to all the 6 cassettes the same day and night. And next day morning, I phoned up and he said, I already listened to it. He said, why don't you come in the same evening, same time? Same time I went there. Again, 1.5 hours, almost 2 hours, the discussion went on various things. And the second meeting, he said, I'm so happy the way in which we are conversing. And also I'm understanding it because he's 10 years elder than me. He's senior to me. He said, Mr. Anand, I am planning to wind up my organization. And no, you came here to sell your product through me, but I'm going to wind up my organization, but I'm going to start something new. And if you are keen, I would like to associate with you. Can we together start this venture? So he gave me an opportunity to start an organization with him. It was something like, a thrilling experience for me. I said, I have other 2 partners, so let me go discuss and come back to you. So I went there, talked to my other 2 partners. They were all thrilled. They said, okay, it's a very nice idea. We took about 3-4 days time for discussion and deliberation. And that was the birth of Sea Change Consulting. My partner, Mr. Prakash, is the one who actually invited me to associate with you. Associate with him. So, yeah, you have any question?
No, actually, I got reminded of a saying when we were talking about going to the persons who is actually, better in that field. They say that the wise person is the one who doesn't just have the people who is, lesser to him, but he will have the people who is wiser to him. Most of the entrepreneurs out there, they have their people who are better than them so that they get various ideas and serve the people better. I think that is what you're doing.
Absolutely. Back to your question, I just want to connect a dot. You said how you were able to build your team, an experts team back in 2002. Yes. The moment we started our organization, Sea Change Consulting, back in 2002, November 22nd, that was our anniversary date. Sea Change starting date. And Mr. Prakash and myself, we had a very clear vision, very, very clear vision. Is that we want to serve MSMEs, we want to serve large enterprises also. Predominantly, we want to serve MSMEs. Those days we call SMEs, small medium enterprises, in terms of consulting, because there are no organizations in a structured way back then to offer a 360-degree holistic solution to SMEs. I'm talking about those days. And if at all there is a problem for an entrepreneur, they go to an auditor, or they go to an advocate, or they go to a banker, or they go to HR expert for HR related activities. But there was no single organization, single entity to cover end-to-end for an MSME or SME organization. So we felt that there is a niche, there is an open space. Why not we capitalize it? But they cannot afford to pay a lot of money, right? So they can't go to McKinsey's or the biggies like EY or the Big Four, because Big Four will not come for MSMEs or SMEs. So they are in a different space. That's where we found our sweet spot, and we started building our services towards MSMEs and SMEs since 2002. So 3 things we took as a resolution. 1, no office, 0 investment, 0 employee. That was our principle. And until today, that is how we operate. And today we are 100-member team, and we have 100 consultants working, and all of them are experts with 10 years, 20 years, 30 years experience. Even I have very senior consultants who have put in 35 years in 24 countries. They are part of our panel, and they are not our employees. They are equally or better than our expertise, but they're all willing to support to serve the MSME sector in large across the country. Today, the 100 member strong team, spanning across the country, are able to operate from different places. And in spite of this COVID, the pandemic situation, one thing I can proudly say that the model what we created way back in 2002 is able to sustain, and it proved that that's a testimony of the real test which is happening now. And to be very frank, of course, the market is pretty much affected, everywhere affected, but our operation is not affected because we always work from home. Not today,
I get it.
from 2002 onwards. So we established our own setup in our homes. We provide the basic infrastructure facility, whatever is required. And each one has a different infrastructure, the setup. And still we are able to operate. The complete freedom is given to all the experts. And they are all supporting us. And today we have done more than 500 projects across the country, outside the country.
That's great, sir. So coming to MSMEs, so from your experience, please tell us that, see, it is normally said outside that timely access to finance is a major challenge for MSMEs. So from your experience in the field for more than a decade and with more than 500 projects, so what do you think is the real case scenario with regard to finance, and is it really the finance or any other factor that is actually stopping the MSMEs from scaling up?
Okay, there are multiple things are to be considered when we talk about this subject, because the moment when we say no finance or no funding options available, first of all we need to know who are they, who says that I don't have money, I'm not able to raise funds. Who are all those people? If you really look at it, overall MSME opportunity is concerned, the business sector is concerned, there are manufacturers, there are people who are into service sector, and there are people into trading business, right? For manufacturing, of course, you buy machines, or you are supposed to buy machines, and you are supposed to have more people to work with you. And naturally, you have to go to a bank. By producing your documents that I have this machine, 40 lakhs, 25 lakhs, 1 crore, obviously there is a bank loan possible. Because you are going to give your machine as a security, correct? At the end of the day, bank wants their money to be back.
Yes.
They want the repayment capacity of the entrepreneur. So the manufacturers, majorly, okay, they will have this access at least. Whether they are able to get or not is a different story. At least they have a route. When it comes to service sector, yes, there is a problem. The 65% of our GDP is actually coming from service sector. India is a service economy.
True.
Our economy is not manufacturing economy, it's a service economy. So we do a lot of services, but unfortunately when you go to bank for asking finance or loan, they will not be able to provide because there is no solid collateral to be produced to the bank. That is where the service industry people get affected. Trading, yes, you have possibility because you are buying stocks. When you are doing trading, obviously you buy a lot of stocks. Yes. So the stocks can be connected as a collateral to get the money from bank. That is possible. But why many people say that we are not supported properly by the banks or anybody for funding? The reason is that unfortunately or fortunately, if the entrepreneur doesn't know how to approach bank, how to present his case to the bank manager, they will not get it.
True.
I'm not just giving a sweeping statement. I was one of the victims. I was affected because of this. The way back in 1999, I told you when I started, 98, 99, only one objective we had in our mind. If we are able to make our monthly salary of whatever we used to get as an employee in the business, we can sustain. That was our the indicator for to be able to sustain or not. So we were able to do that, but we want more money to pump in. Then when the business grows, so we went to a nationalized bank. I don't want to name the bank, and I was rejected heavily. In fact, I was coming back. Even till today, I'm able to remember when I went to a nationalized bank in city, the extreme end of city. I don't want to even name the place. And the bank manager did not even respect me, but did not even acknowledge me, did not even appreciate me. He didn't say anything. He said, you are not eligible. That's all. It means you get lost. There are hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs are in this category. Then when I came back, I realized what was my mistake. Why I have a great solution available, great concept available. There are customers who are buying my product. I am able to make invoices and I'm able to sustain. By then I was 2-year-old company. Why am I not getting money? Which means I didn't know how to approach bank. I didn't know how to present my case to the banker. I didn't know how to prepare my business plan. Today, thanks to TIE, thanks to so many associations, SME associations and startup advisors, even ourselves, we are also a startup advisors now. So we are able to now help entrepreneur how to really prepare your papers before you go to bank. Just to give you a minute detail input to you, you are not supposed to go to a bank manager in the morning hours. You should go only after 3 o'clock.
Oh.
Between 3 and 4:30 is the right time, good mood for a bank manager to receive you. Because he's busy since morning with the regular customers, retail customers. He will not be able to listen to you. So from that small element, right up to how to prepare your business plan and how to present yourself, everything is now structured. Today, the market is really mature. But if you don't have a solid business idea in your kitty, how much ever you go fight, you will not get money. This is one side of the coin. The second is, today the incubators, startup incubators come, technology incubators come, business incubators have come. The entrepreneurs also have to step out and ask help from third-party organizations, which is not happening today. Either they go for personal loan or they go to bank. They will say that I'm not getting money, I'm not having access to government schemes. You will not get, because you are not trained on that. Probably you are only trained on your idea. So you have to go to the right person to ask. If you go and ask the right person, obviously you will get opportunity. I have a person who is an MSME scheme provider in Trichy in Tamil Nadu. He told me that he has already serviced 400 MSMEs getting money from banks for their businesses. You know, there is something called Mudra Bank. Mudra loan. Mudra loan is available. Not that Mudra loan everybody gets it, but there are people who are getting it. But if you don't know, in fact, I have a lot of customers, my own clients now, I've got Mudra schemes. 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. I mean, 10 lakhs is the upper ceiling, I think. They're able to get it. So the point what I'm trying to convey from my own story is, first of all, we should be clear what we are doing. Our paper should be very, very authentic. And third is, we should have a proper advisor to help us out. I've answered your question.
Totally, sir. And I guess the audience, especially the budding entrepreneurs, are noting down all the points that you said. And I thank God that I asked you this question. And I totally admire your resilience. And I could see how rich your experience is in the field. So now, since you're into consulting, I thought of asking you this question, sir. This is an era where automation, artificial intelligence, IoT are all playing big spaces in the business. But there are businesses which are still struggling to keep up with the pace and implement that in their, the processes. So could you please give some advice on how they could integrate themselves into this transition and implement that in their processes?
See, today's world is a digital world. I mean, all said and done, thanks to even, I would say, COVID, the work from home culture has created a huge impact because, just about 4 months before, 3.5 months before, can any one of us thought that we will be using so many webinars? This webinar, even if you take this webinar, we wouldn't have thought. You would have come to my office, or I would have come to your office, or we would have met in some hotel to do this interview, right? Today it is happening. Why? Because one is adaptability. The fundamental aspect to any entrepreneur, in my own experiences, is adaptability. If you are not adaptable to the changing scenario, we have been talking disruption for more than 4-5 years now. We talk about VUCA world, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. We've been talking for years, for 3-4 years, but that has come today. It has an effect in present world, present lifestyle.
Yes.
But those who were able to predict this, those who were able to adapt to the changing scenario, are actually thriving much better than the other people. So the fundamental aspect to any entrepreneur, even the existing entrepreneur who are in the field for 10, 20 years also, my humble submission to all of them, I've been telling this through this interview, I'm communicating to all the entrepreneurs because I work very closely with MSMEs and entrepreneurs and small business owners. I humbly tell you, please immediately, quickly change your approach towards digital. Digital is the only buzzword where you'll be able to survive and grow. There are organizations called SaaS providers, software
Yes,
as a
sir.
service.
Mhm.
They're all thriving. They're all growing like mad. For example, you're using Google, Gmail. We are using Gmail, right? And Gmail has so many applications. If you go to Google G Suite, there are so many apps. How
Yes,
many
sir.
people know other than Gmail the rest of the apps?
Very
Maybe
few.
Google Meet. Maybe Google Meet,
Mhm.
There are about 12 apps which are available in Google Suite, G Suite, but
Mhm.
many people don't know about it.
Yes.
Many people don't use about it. So here my humble suggestion is anything related to automation, as you rightly asked me. Today we are talking about, at least last 2 years, we were talking about Industry 4.0. The complete automation. The companies and organizations are moving towards automation. Meaning what? Today everything is data based, big data as they call, cloud based.
Yes, sir.
It is no more subjectivity in business. Everything is objective, which means you need to bring data and analytics in everyday's life. Even if you take advocates, lawyers in abroad, the IBM Watson will replace million advocates or lawyers because Watson will provide all the solution.
Mm.
After all, what information you want, it goes searches all the information, it provides to the client. The client is happy end of the day. So my humble advice to everybody, suggestion to everybody is, please change your way of thinking from physical doing to digital doing.
Digital.
So that is why I even some of our associates in our organization have coined a word called digital MSME.
Okay.
We are actually taking this concept. We are going to propel this concept. Are you an MSME or digital MSME? For example, read Skyline. I saw your website before this interview. So what you guys are doing, and you guys are doing digital marketing agency, right? You are doing quite a lot of activities of digital marketing.
Yes,
So
sir.
today, hundreds of companies have already come in. You don't have to learn. Entrepreneurs, I'm telling you, my dear friends, you don't have to go sit and learn artificial intelligence and big data and machine learning and blockchain and all that. There are already service providers available. You just have to align with them. They will take care of it. In fact, I would say one step forward for this question. I've been advocating this. I've been suggesting to all my clients. Like we used to have EDP manager, computer department manager, IT manager. You need to have a digital manager for an organization, social media manager. So that he will run the whole thing because he's a youngster. Anyway, we'll recruit only the youngster, the millennials who have been to all this experience. They've been learning continuously. So they will take care of your organization. So adaptability is the crux of the matter.
I get it, sir. That's truly a valuable and a very practical suggestion to all the businesses, I would say. So as I was saying in the introduction, you're handling so many roles. Have you ever felt like, oh my God, I'm doing so much? And how did you actually manage to, balance all the roles that you have taken up?
Okay. Subbalakshmi, one thing I would like to tell you, there are 100,000 people already, or 100,000 plus people already are most busiest people on earth than me. So definitely I always have this wonder, and I have a off for them, for everybody, because I know a lot of them in my own circle. They are much ahead of me.
You're so
actually
humble,
I'm trying
sir.
to. No, it's a true. It's a matter of fact. I don't want to really. It's a truth. I'm always telling you. So I always try to catch up with those people. Every single day, my day starts with how do I beat myself of yesterday's performance?
Great.
I always have a competition only within me. So how much I've done yesterday, how much I've accomplished yesterday, and how much more I can achieve today, and what kind of target I can set for tomorrow. That's how the whole day operates. But here the resilience or what really made me to run like this is simple. I've been practicing, maybe I can talk about the other side of my life, maybe subsequently, but I like to touch upon that. I've been practicing meditation for a long time. My guru used to tell me, my master used to tell, the most busiest man on earth has got more time.
True.
The
Yes.
most busiest, I repeat the word statement, his statement, the most busiest man on earth has got more time. Why? How? Can you tell me how?
Maybe because he knows how to optimize the time and use it clearly. So he has a lot of time.
Absolutely. He is very organized. He is very structured. He knew or he knows the time factor in every aspect of his life. He splits the activities into multiple parts, and he goes by that. In fact, a person who's a meditator, people who pursue meditation, example, they can regulate their mind. By regulating their mind, their application in handling things are much faster because they don't have unwanted things running in their mind. They're very, very clear, focused. So this is the reason, why I think whatever level, whatever percentage I'm able to accomplish or I'm pursuing is because of that aspect. So a lot more to go, miles to go before I sleep anyway.
That's very great, and it's a very humble answer, I would say. And as you were saying, you're not just into meditation, but you are also a heartfulness trainer. So could you please explain us what is this heartfulness all about and how one can inculcate that in the life?
Very, very nice question. This is more important to me in my life than even in business. I told you like I met Mr. Prakash in a social space.
Yes, sir.
That was a place that was actually a Heartfulness Center. So he is also a meditator. He's a secretary to our global guide, our master. He's been in industry. He's very, very senior to me. He's in industry for a long time. He's been practicing for more than, I guess, 28 years or so. So I have been practicing this meditation since 1999. Ever since I started a company, within a year or so, my partner, Mr. R. Sridhar, he said, why not we start a meditation? Why not we start yoga, he said. I said, fine, because that was kind of a fashion statement. Let me also start doing yoga. So I was 26 years then. So both of us went to that place and started. So that is how my journey started with the Heartfulness Institute to learn meditation, to learn yoga. That's when I met Mr. Prakash. That's how the whole connect established. So here, what exactly the Heartfulness meditation is all about, our institute is all about. This is a 75-year-old organization.
Okay.
And it was started in 1945 by a founder, president called Babuji Maharaj, otherwise called Ramchandra. His name was Ramchandra, otherwise called Babuji, fondly called Babuji Maharaj. And on his guru's name, he started the organization called Sri Ramchandra Mission. Formerly called Sri Ramchandra Mission, now it is called Heartfulness Institute.
Okay.
Where I've been practicing for more than 20 years. So what exactly we do, you ask me? It's simple. It's simple, but it's very difficult to explain also. Not that easy to explain. But let me put it in a very simple format. Why, what, and how. If these three words, if you can, it's golden circle as they call. If you know these three words and the meaning of it, you can really dive deep into this practice. I'm not talking philosophically, but I'm just telling you practically also. Anything you do, anything you want to do, anything you do in your life, if you ask this question, why? Why am I born here? Why am I doing it here? Why should I do this here? Why should I start a company? Why should I recruit people? Why should I expand my business? Why should I make money? Why should I get married? If you keep asking this why, normally that is what we have been taught in the schools, right? So we didn't ask any why questions. Otherwise, you would have been Einstein and Thomas Alva Edison by then. So this why, single why question, why not I do meditation? What is there in meditation is what my inquisitiveness those days. So I went there. There I found it's like a 100-story building or 1,000-story building. And you can go to 1,000th floor, still you can see the world. You can go to 998th floor, you can see. You can go 99th floor, or you can go to 9th floor, or you can be in the first floor also, or in the ground floor. Any floor you are in, whichever position you are in, the practice helps us to fine-tune ourselves to look at world completely differently.
Oh.
The way you look at life, the way you look at your purpose, the way you look at your being, the way you look at your things, even your family, your children, relatives, friends, relationships, society, politics, money, physical health, mental well-being, knowledge, you name any sphere of life. If you learn meditation, where I'm learning is Heartfulness Institute, it gives you completely 360-degree dimension to it. And what we do is basically we just simply sit, eyes closed, and meditate. We meditate on what? We meditate on nothing. We meditate on ultimate supernatural power. And if you believe in God, you say God. If you believe in nature, you say nature. If you don't believe in God or nature, you just close your eyes and connect yourself to the ultimate, whatever you feel like, or connect yourself inside. So we practice meditation in the heart, 30 minutes every single day morning, 20 minutes in the evening, at night about 5 minutes. And every Sunday we attend group meditation. It is there worldwide, 165 countries. And it has given me a completely different perspective about the whole life. It is a spiritual practice, but very much connected to our materialistic life. It is like, how to balance your family life, your social life, your professional life, your business life, and yourself personally, physical, mental, moral, ethical. Everything is connected with single thought through the meditation. I would say the fulcrum of whole life for any being, human being, is meditation. All you have to do is just have to sit eyes closed and do meditation at your home. You don't have to go anywhere. Be at your home, stay at your home, but close your eyes for 30 minutes every single day and meditate. You will see the rest of the happenings unfolding. So it has given me a lot of charge. It has given me a lot of energy. It has given me a lot of enthusiasm. It has given me a lot of positivity. All the negativities, dropped off. I'll give you a practical, realistic entrepreneur example. When I started practicing this, when I meet a lot of people, and when we discuss about one problem in business, I'm saying, when the problem is placed on the table, for a discussion on the board, many people used to go around with that problem, pointing fingers, creating politics, going haywire. I don't know, it is not my skill or I never take even 0.001% to my credit. Because I was doing meditation, because I was tuned to that ultimate condition, I am able to always see only the solution. I never be able to see the problem. Even in this pandemic situation, I'm not self-boasting. It is not about me. It is about the effect of efficacy of the practice which I'm doing. I never be able to see the problem. I'm able to only see what is the solution for this challenge. There is a challenge before me for all of us. Yes. COVID should not come to me. COVID should not attack us. So what is the solution? So I could only see the solution to be handled rather than looking at the problem here and there. By looking at the problem, you are losing energy. By focusing on solution, you are gaining energy. You are gaining time. That is called less and less of more and more. Less and less of problem, more and more of happiness. Many people have more and more of problem, less and less of happiness.
True, sir.
This is not my statement. This is my Guruji's statement. He says always less and less of more and more of less and less. So altogether, I would say Heartfulness is a meditation system, a very simple meditation system. It is offered free of cost. Not even 1 rupee is charged. It is 100% free, 100% freedom. You don't have to go fall on somebody's feet and take, worshipping style of model. You don't have to. And if you're age of 15, 16 years, you can start. You don't have to be at the age of 60 to start. Even we are teaching school children, college children, everywhere we are teaching, corporates, everywhere. 3 days you can learn, and rest of your life you can practice at home more comfortably. And within 3 months' time, if you don't see change in your life internally, I'm saying, I can challenge you. Within 3 months, you will be able to see, because I'm the testimony of that. The entire family of mine are practicing. Myself, my wife, my parents, my children, all of them are practicing.
That's really a wow answer, sir. Sir, I would say what you told about meditation is not just going to help the entrepreneur, but also to millions of people out there who feel so suffocated because of this quarantine. Thank you so much for answering that question, sir. And
I would like to add one point, if you allow me to share. It is very much and potentially very, very useful for entrepreneurial community. Entrepreneur is the one who sacrifices a lot and who carries a lot of loads. He's not an employer of an organization where he goes at 9:30, 5:30, come back. And if the company I don't like, I can leave the company, go to some other company also. Or if I don't like the job, I can change to any other job. Entrepreneur life is not like that. Once he has chosen, once he got into it, there are 100,000 elements outside of him controlling his business or opportunities. So he has a lot of stress. Any entrepreneur for that matter, they have a lot of stress, lot of strain. That's where meditation. Fortunately, when I started a company, I also got started meditation. So I don't know, maybe because of that, so many problems I would have actually faced, bigger than what I faced. Because of meditation, I think I could manage. It's not that I didn't have any problem. I had so many problems, but I overcame one by one because of the power of meditation. Therefore, I suggest people to look at seriously to align yourself in learning meditation.
That's great. So I'm sure the audience will definitely do that. And as you said, being an entrepreneur is not really easy. So what is your source of resilience all throughout your journey, irrespective of the challenges that you face in the industry?
See, the resilience is very simple. When I am committed to a cause, knowingly we started the business. It's not like somebody pushed me to start a company.
It's a conscious
Nobody can push
decision.
anybody. Very, very conscious decision. So when I started doing, suddenly one day I realized some time ago that there are so many stakeholders are connected with me. My performance, my action determines the lifestyle of many people, or positively or negatively. It can positively impact, or negatively also it can impact. So I am more committed now than me, myself. Moving from me, myself to ourselves, to everybody. There are so many stakeholders. My partners, immediately to start with, my partners, immediate partners, business partners. Then the families, partners, families. There are so many family members are also there, no? Their children. So every action of mine is going to create a ripple effect. It's going to impact in everybody's life. And subsequently to their siblings, their relatives. And this is one side of it. The second side, there are so many service providers are with me. There are people who come to me to offer their services. For example, C-Change, we have 100 consultants, which means 100, they are not actually dependent on me. They're all independent consultants. But yet they are connected with me. So I take the ownership, I take the moral responsibility of fulfilling the expectations at my best, whatever the best I can, to the 100 consultants who are associated, which means the extended family. My family is very big. And imagine the clients. I have more than 500 clients so far we serviced. And every single day we are talking to a lot of clients. Imagine the clients and clients, employees and clients, stakeholders. So when I look at it, my world is very big actually.
Yes.
It is not just about me making my own money, my own buck, and then, I settle myself and I say, okay. It's not, if it is a self-employment, I can say like that. It's an entrepreneurship, which means the resilience or the inner, the ability to thrive in spite of all the difficulties, because there are so many people are also connected with me. On the contrary, there is a beautiful thing. I have so many people, if I have any difficulty, they are ready to support me. Where will you find this? Because when you are able to support and help so many people, when you are in trouble, the same people are going to support me, right?
Yes.
This is how the relationship develops. So my Guruji always says, Daji, the present global guide of Artfulness Institute, he's a businessman himself. NRI, he was in US for 35 years, chain of pharmacy stores he ran. And he's fully into this activity for 40 years. Even recently he said, you must have empathy. In the business he's talking about, he was addressing the business owners, CEOs. He says, if you have empathetic leadership, if you have karuna, which is compassion, kindness, obviously the tribe continues, the relationship continues, and that gives you a lot of energy and enthusiasm to get back and start working, even if you have any challenges in your business.
Yes, sir. As you rightly said, being empathetic and being compassionate will not just make us succeed in the business, but also will make us feel satisfied in our lives. And I should say, since the start,
Absolutely.
I felt only the positive vibes from you. I, in fact, felt like conversing with one of my professors. You truly are a trainer of heartfulness. I could totally feel. Thank you so much for being on the show, sir.
Thank you very much. I would like to share the final statement to you. Thank you very much for taking your time to interview me. Long way to go.
Thank
Uh,
you, sir.
we are all what we call work in progress stage, all of us, all the time. In fact, when I wrote a book called 36 Golden Rules for
Okay.
Entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
The book is a bestseller today, and a lot of people are buying it. I'm also doing Tamil translation for Tamil MSME entrepreneurs. And what I did during this lockdown days, just before lockdown I started, I created a snippet of 36. It is a 36 rule I created for a business owner
Entrepreneur.
to read, entrepreneurs. And it's available on Amazon and all the online stores. And I made it as a 4 minutes video of each rule in Tamil and made it available free for people to just download and listen to it. It's available in my YouTube channel called See Change Online.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a kind of little value addition. I thought I will add it for the fraternity of MSMEs. Coming in the sense like coming 27th June, we are doing this interview on this date. Today is what I think 23rd or so.
23rd.
27th of June is the International MSME Day. And I'm planning to release a virtual coffee table book for entrepreneurs. For 25 of my articles during this lockdown period, I compiled it, chronicle of my earlier articles, which will be released on 27th June as a chronicle compendium. It's called Virtual Coffee Table Book for Entrepreneurs. With that good news, I must say sincere thanks and gratitude to your organization, Reach Skyline, and Subbulakshmi yourself for taking time out to interview me. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Congratulations and best wishes for your book and also for the chronicle of your articles. We are definitely looking forward to it. I'm sure that you would have also enjoyed sharing your thoughts with us. So thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you. Wish you all the best. Take care. Stay safe.
Sure, sir. And my dear audience, as Anand has been rightly pointing out, it is more important to have a healthy mindset. Once you have a healthy mind, automatically you will get a clear vision and you will set your path that you needed. So with that note, I'll meet you in another episode with another interesting personality. Till then, keep learning and keep growing all together. Thank you.
Reach Skyline. Embrace digital.